Salutations. My name is Summer, and this is Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats. And I believe I have three cats in here today. So we'll see if they'll show themselves a little bit, maybe. This is Mayfair, who just got shaved, and Randall's hiding over there behind me, and Sylvie's in the plants. So anyway, today I would like to go over books 51 through 100 of the Great American Read list. We already went through the first 50 and it took 35 minutes, I think. So this part should go faster because a lot of these books I haven't read, so I can't go on and on and on about them. All right, so book 51, Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. I read this book. I used to own it. When I moved, I got rid of about 100 books, and it was one of them that I got rid of. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed reading about her life more so than her books because she was a fascinating woman. Anyway, but yes, I read it. I do not own it. I really enjoyed it. 52 Jurassic Park. I used to own this and the whole series. I've read them. They were fun and exciting, and I love anything about dinosaurs, so yeah. I don't own it anymore. Must have been one that slipped away, because I had all of them, like The Lost World and, but it was a long time ago. 53 The Godfather by Mario Puzo. I have not read it. I do not own it, and please excuse my pronunciation with some of these names. That's one of my weak points. 54, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I do have it, and I have a beautiful edition. I have not read it. I've heard complaints. I'm a little nervous about this book. I can't remember if they said something about mystical or magical realism or something like that, which made me a little nervous. So I have not read this, but I read Love in the Time of Cholera, and I really enjoyed that. And I believe it's the same, hopefully, I believe it's the same author. It might not be, but it doesn't have a list of books. But anyway, I still need to read that. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I read it. It was fine. I think I got it from the library. It's not one that I care to own. 57, The Notebook by Nicholas Sparks. I used to own this. I used to own quite a few of Nicholas Sparks. I enjoy his novels while I'm reading them, but you always know what to expect. There's always going to be a romance, and someone's going to fall in love with somebody, and then they're going to die. So just be prepared to cry because somebody's going to die. And it's always the same thing. But you know what? Sometimes it's nice going into a book that you pretty much know what you're going to get with it. So, but I don't own it anymore. The only Nicholas Sparks book I own, actually there's a couple of them now that I'm thinking about it, but The Guardian is one that I kept because I thought I want to reread that. Anyway, 57, The Shack by William P. Young. I have not read it. I watched the movie, I want to say last year, and it was okay. So I haven't read it yet, and I don't own it. 58, A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole. I had never heard of this book before. I don't own it. I plan to read it at some point. I'm so glad that the libraries are opening back up. 59, The Hunt of Red October by Tom Clancy. I've read it. I did own it, but I didn't keep it. I sent it on its way. It was a fine read. It was enjoyable while I read it. I just felt like I was never going to read it again. Number 60 is Beloved by Toni Morrison. I'm not going to lie. This book was so confusing to me. I did not understand what was going on, and then I thought I did, and then I didn't, and it was just so confusing to me. So, and I read it when I was younger. Maybe I would have a different feel about it as an adult, but I don't know. I just remember being so lost. Like, what is going on? And I want to read The Bluest Eye by her in the next couple of months because I have read other books of hers that I've enjoyed. She's never been a favorite of mine, but I have enjoyed some of her other books. They're always so sad, like Sula and the mother-daughter relationship. But anyway, I said I wasn't going to take a long time talking about these books. Number 61 is The Martian by Andy Weir. And I read this. I enjoyed it. I owned it at the time. My favorite color is orange, so I was so excited about the cover. But I just got the paperback and I sent it on its way someplace else. I enjoyed the book. I feel like once you read it, I've read it and I didn't plan to read it again. I'm pretty sure I watched the movie too with Matt Damon. Maybe I just watched previews of it, but I think I watched the movie too. And it was enjoyable. And I read his newer book that just came out. And I don't remember what it was called because it was just the same as The Martian. It was like, oh, okay, it's science fiction, and it was fine. Number 62, The Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. And at the very end, Robert Jordan didn't finish it. Brandon Sanderson finished the series for him because he passed away. I think I only got to book 4 in this series. And it reminded me a lot of Tolkien. You know, I enjoyed parts, but then I was bored in other parts, and I just kept reading the series because everybody was raving about it. I stopped. I don't own any of these. I don't plan to get back into the series. Number 63, Siddhartha. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, by Herman Hesse. I do own it. I don't even know where it came from. I have not read it. I have no idea what it's about. So, but it says it's good. Not that that means anything, but it says it's good. Number 64, Crime and Punishment. I have these beautiful editions. I have they're vintage editions. I can never pronounce his name. And when I try, it makes it sound even worse. Like in my head, when I read it, I got it. But when I try to say it out loud, I just turn it into. Anyway, Crime and Punishment. I'm pretty sure you guys have all heard about this book. I have not read it. I plan to read it hopefully this year. I had 2 copies. And so when I got this edition, I went and gave my other one to a friend. So I'm hoping, and he may never read it, but I'm hoping that someday he'll be like, hey, listen, I'm reading this. And I'll be like, oh, great, I'll read mine now. But I probably should just go ahead and read it because I give that friend a ton of books and he's always constantly reading. And he has his own stuff he wants to read also. But anyway, I love these editions. I have Anna Karenina, and I think I got 3. But maybe not. Maybe I just got Anna Karenina and Crime and Punishment in these vintage editions. Anyway, I want to read it. 65, The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I'd hate to say I'm prejudiced against Ernest Hemingway. I remember when I was in school, I was home taught for high school. I didn't go to high school. But I remember my mom having us read The Old Man and the Sea, and I was just like, so, and I've read about his wives. I'm going to have to give him a chance. I mean, there's no way I could go through life and not read a Hemingway. I'm just going to have to, besides The Old Man and the Sea, I'm just going to have to do it. So number 66, but I don't own it. Number 66, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. I don't understand the hype of this book. I got it from the library. Everybody on BookTube, I think it was last year or the year before, was going on and on about this book. And I thought, oh, well, that's just a tiny little book. I'll read it. I got it from the library, and I just, like, okay. I don't get why everybody loves it, but people do that. I've noticed where it's like, oh, there'll be a million people loving this book, and I'll read it and just like, if you love it, I guess. 67, A Separate Piece. This is one I really want to read too. I don't own it. It's by John Knowles. I don't own it, but this is one I've heard about quite a bit. So, number 68, Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. I'm sure I butchered that. I really want to read that book. I don't own it. It's one I plan to buy for Christmas. It's on my list. I actually have it on my wish list at Book Depository, so I plan to get it for myself. Number 69, The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. I read this when it came out. I think it was a movie too. And this is another one that everybody loved at the time that it came out. It was fine. I didn't see what was. I mean, sure, it's about a ghost of a girl who was murdered in a horrible way, but I didn't really. It was fine. Number 70 is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I forget how to pronounce his last name. I read The Alchemist. I owned it, and then I read it, and then I gave it away. It was another one where I did not see what everybody else sees in it. It was a fine book, but yeah, I wasn't that impressed with it. It was just, I don't know. And here's the thing. This is why I love BookTube. Maybe things that I don't see, you guys can tell me what was so great about it or what you loved about it, because I'll be talking about a book that I don't like, and somebody will tell me all these things they love about it, and I think it makes me actually think later. Like, I'll sit back and think, well, yeah, you're right. It did do that. It did a good job at this or that or whatever it was. Number 71, Hatchet series by Gary Paulson. I love Gary Paulson's books. I read Hatchet. I got this beat up copy. I read Hatchet when I was a teenager. I think it was middle grade. I had to read it for school, and I loved it then. And since then, I've read this whole series and a lot of his other books. I haven't read his adult, I want to say it's called Winter Dance. I haven't read it yet, but I've read a lot. I've read this series. I've read a lot of his books, and I love them. I love his descriptions on nature and the relationship that he has with nature and his intuition. And anyway, great book, great series. Number 72, Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. So I own this book, and I tried to read it, and I did not like it. I didn't get that far in it before I was like, enough. So I don't really know that much about what it was about. It started out with this man who was, I don't know, it was just so dark, and there was already, within a couple pages, there was a lot of negative, violent thinking, and I just thought, no thanks. So I didn't continue on with it, and I gave my copy away. Number 73, The Twilight Twilight series by Stephanie Meyer. I really enjoyed Twilight. I was a lot older when it came out because I'm 41 now. So when it came out, I did not jump on the bandwagon. I don't. The same thing with Harry Potter. I was an adult when it came out, and I was just like, I'm not reading that. I'm not, whatever. It's a silly book. Well, I went and I read it. I don't even remember. Maybe I wanted to read it before the movie came out, and I thought, oh, I'll give the movie a try. Anyway, I got the book. I couldn't put it down. And I know it was about this teenage girl and this vampires, and it seems like a silly story, but I loved it. I so much so that I went out to Walmart and I bought the other three books and just read them all. So I plan to read the new one that's coming out, I think next month. Even though I usually don't like to read things that's the other person's, especially if it's like a romantic. I'm like, oh, I could do without the male perspective. He's just gonna ruin it. But I plan to read it. Number 74, Tales of the City. I guess it's a series. I didn't know that. By Armistead Maupin. I'm guessing on the pronunciation of that. I just got this book from a library book sale. Well, I should say I just got it. It was last year. Library book sale. So, yeah, I plan to read it at some point, but I haven't yet. Number 75 is Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. I thought I had read this when I was younger, and I don't believe I have. So I need to, and I don't own it. So I need to get on that. Number 76, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I absolutely loved it. I haven't watched the movie because everybody says the movie isn't very good. I loved the book. I think I loved it so much because I grew up in that time, so all the references. And I grew up before computers. Well, I mean, we had computers, I want to say sixth grade. Loud motorcycle. I want to say computers. They brought a van to our school in sixth grade where we went out to the van to learn things, and they just taught us games pretty much. So anyway, yeah, Ready Player One. I thought it was great. I loved it, and I don't own it, but I would like to own it and read other things by him. Number 77, Left Behind by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins. I read this. I might have read two or three of them back when they came out, which was a long time ago. And I remember liking Left Behind, and I don't mean to be disrespectful at all when I say this, because I totally respect everybody's beliefs, religious beliefs, spiritual beliefs. But for me, it was kind of funny and intriguing, the idea of people disappearing and their clothes being left. And so, yeah, and they were a little too, I'm Quaker, I'm unprogrammed Quaker. So we sit in silence for an hour. So we don't have a minister for unprogrammed. Anyway, yeah, so they got a little too religious for me, but I enjoyed it at the time. 78, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I loved this book, and I own it. I'm not sure why I still have it, because I love the book, and I read the book before the movie, thank goodness. Otherwise, it would have been ruined. But this was a great ride. I mean, it really was. Not knowing every chapter, I think, did she mean that? She'd say something about her husband, and she'd say, that killer smile, or something like that. And you're thinking, did she mean, did she really think he's capable? I loved it. And I'm not really big on suspense or not too much on mystery either. I like historical fiction and just, stuff that puts it out there. But This was so good. But once you've read it, you've read it. And I don't think I could ever enjoy it as much as I did that first time. So maybe I'll just hold on to it until my niece gets a little older because she's going to be 13. So give her a couple more years. And if she hasn't seen the movie by then, you know how kids are watching movies. Anyway, I'll see if she'll want to read it. Okay, number 79, Watchers by Dean Koontz. I don't own it. I haven't read it. I read Twilight Eyes by him, and I think I read something that he had about, he's like real big on golden retrievers. He owns them and stuff. So I think I read one of his books that had a golden retriever, but I don't remember it. It's not really, it wasn't really worth, remembering, I guess. Number 80, The Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, I want to say. I don't own it. I haven't read it. Number 81, Alex Cross Mysteries. It's a series by James Patterson. I read one of these books because of this list. So that way I could say, okay, I read one of those books. I hate to say this, but James Patterson, how he used to write, I really enjoyed. Along Came a Spider and Kiss the Girls Goodbye. And I used to really enjoy his books. And the past 10 years, I'd say, I don't read any of his stuff. I feel it's very fluffy. Okay, number 82, Things Fall Apart. I'm going to mispronounce it. I'm so sorry. Chinua Achebe. I read this book, and I got it from the library, and I read it because of this list. And people were talking about how, I don't know if they said he was the main character, this was heroic, or the struggles, or whatever. I hated this book. Absolutely hated it. I felt like, and like the synopsis, what it said on the back was mainly about a man and his struggles. And I thought, what about all these women? I mean, a woman carries twins, and then she gives birth, and then you're going to say that in the superstition of one of them has to die, or they both have to die, so leave them in the forest. I'm thinking through this whole book, the women were the ones that were suffering and being treated horribly. Not this, I could care less about this main character. And, that just seems to stick with me. But I get angry every time I see this book because I read it because of this list. And thankfully I did not buy it. I would have burned it. I'm kidding. So I'm sorry if you liked this book. I'm sorry. Maybe you saw something different, or you got something different from it than I did, and you could tell me about it, because I don't like to use the word hate, but whew, that book made me so angry. Number 83, Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I've heard about this book quite a bit through life. I have not read it. I do not own it. Number 84 is Gilead by Mary Lynn. It's spelled like Mary Lynn, but it's probably Marilyn, I'm guessing. Robinson. Here again, people on BookTube. I got it at I want to say library book sale, or maybe it was at Ollie's. I'm not for sure, but it's a beautiful, beautiful cover. It was the most boring book. I could not get through it. I'd pick it up and I'd read a page and my eyes would be losing. I'd lose focus. It was so boring. And the sad thing is it sounds like it would be something right up my alley. It's about a man who's coming to the end of his life. He's a lot older, and he has a young son and a younger wife. I believe it was maybe it wasn't his second marriage, because I believe he was a minister. our pastor. So maybe this was his first marriage, but he married someone a lot younger and had a child. And I believe the child was so young, 5 years old, 8 years old. And he would go back and then talk about his father, who I believe was a minister too. I'm thinking, I may be wrong with this, but I like this slow, quiet, calm books that you just guide along with them. But I couldn't with this book. And I do have another book of hers. I believe it's called Lila, I think. And it's a small book too, and it has a beautiful cover too. We'll see. I mean, I've only had one book of hers that I've read, and it bored me, but it doesn't mean I won't try another one of hers. Number 85, Flowers in the Attic, V.C. Andrews. I do not own it. I read it when I was a teenager. I loved V.C. Andrews. I've read, I mean, there's probably hundreds, honestly, because she died after she wrote Flowers of the Attic. She died, and this whole time it's been a ghostwriter. And I believe it's the man who wrote The Devil's Advocate, which I didn't read, but I saw the movie. I believe Keanu Reeves, maybe Charlize Theron were in it, I think. But yeah, I love V.C. Andrews. I don't read her so much now that I'm older, but as a teenager, she was my go-to. I mean, we didn't have money growing up, but if I saw a book and I had money, I was picking it up. Number 86, 50 Shades of Grey by E.L. James. Of course, I read it. I read the first two books. I didn't read the third one. I believe I own it. I don't own 50 Shades of Grey, the first and second book, because as I read them, I let them go. I send them off into the universe for somebody else to read. But sure, they're lots of fun, I think. I enjoyed them. I don't know if they belong on this, but they probably are. One of them, apparently, they're one of the most popular. So, number 87, The Sirens of Titan by Kurt Vonnegut. I have not read this, and I do not own this, but I do own other books of his, and I've read other books of his, and I enjoy his writing. Number 88, The Present Darkness, Frank E. Peretti. I have no idea what it's about, and I don't own it. I haven't read it. 89, Americana by, I'm going to mispronounce it. I'm so sorry. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I have this beautiful, beautiful edition. And I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. It's another one that I think has been on BookTube for a couple of years now. And I did read a small, I don't even know if it was big enough to be a novella, but I read something that she wrote on being a feminist, and I enjoyed it. So hopefully I enjoy this, but it's on my list to read. All of these that are circled, I need to read. Okay, so number 90 is Another Country by James Baldwin. I did own this book. I don't own it now. James Baldwin, I gave him I read 3 books of his. Another Country. I want to say Bring It to the Mountain. Go on Top of the Mountain. Something on the Mountain. And then If Beale Street Could Talk. All of his books were good. But he just wasn't for me. So I enjoyed Another Country. I think Another Country I enjoyed the most. I thought I would enjoy If Beale Street Could Talk the most, but it's driving me crazy. I can't remember the name of the other one. Something about mountain. It doesn't matter, I guess. You can look it up if you're interested in his books. But I felt like he was a very good writer, but he just wasn't for me. Number 91, Bless Me, Ultima, by Rudolfo Anya. I've never heard of it. I clearly don't own it. Number 92, Looking for Alaska, John Green. I read this book and I did not like it at all. I don't own it. I think I did. I did own it, but it's gone. And I just didn't like it at all. I liked A Fault in Our Stars, but it's what you expect, and it's young adult. Um, I also read, I want to say Grayson or something like that by him, and it was fine too. But John Green, I think he's like Nicholas Sparks. You get what you think you're gonna get, and sometimes you really want that. So, number 93, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. Oh, I think this is a Hunat Diaz. It's a J, but I think it's an H sound. Hunat Diaz. I haven't read it. I don't own it. Number 94, Swan Song by Robert R. McCammon. Never heard of it. Number 95, Mind Invaders by David Hunt. Never heard of it. Number 96, White Teeth by Zadie Smith. I do not own this book. I do own a book of hers called On Beauty, so I plan to read it first before I get White Teeth. Unless I see, Ollie's. I love Ollie's. Sometimes they have books for like $1.99, and I will pick up a book. So, and that's where I got On Beauty. It's a beautiful edition, and I got it at Ollie's. 97, Ghost by Jason Reynolds. I read this. I enjoyed it fine. I don't ever plan to own it. And for some reason, I thought it was a series. It's young adult. That's all I really have to say about it. It was fine. 98, The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Solja. I do own it. I started it. Not very much started it. It's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I bought it because it's on this list. So, number 99, The Intuitionist by Colson Whitehead. I hate to say this. I read The Nickel Boys, and I did not care for it. And I know it's based on true events. I just did not like his writing, and everybody went crazy about the Underground Railroad, and I never read it. So we'll see. I might get this from the library and see how I like it, but I was not impressed with the Nickel Boys, and I felt like with the information he had, I mean, this is true events. This is a real place. This really happened to these boys. I felt like he could have really gave, I don't know, I'm being judgmental. I shouldn't be. I'm not a writer. And it must be so hard to put your stuff out there for other people like me to judge. All right. I'm just going to say, I'll get it from the library and we'll see how I like it. And number 100, Donna Barbara by Romelu Gallegos. I know I mispronounced that. I apologize. Anyway, I've never heard of Donna Barbara. I have no idea. So, I'm not sure. Okay, yeah, this is another long video. But one thing I want to say, wrap up type deal. I have read 62 books, so I still have 38 books to read. And we will see how many I can slide in. August is already, my TBR is going to be crazy. And I got some books from the library. I got a beautiful book about birds, all about birds, and it's got beautiful pictures and stuff. So, and a book about yoga too. But those are more, I can be reading those while I read other things. So we will see. Anyway, please let me know about any of these books. I'm interested about all of them. Whether you liked them, you didn't like them. If you've read them, if you've even heard about them, your opinion about the list, the books that made the list. I really wish they would do this again because I think a lot of us didn't really know about it until it was already happening. So I'm thinking, where did you get this list of books from the beginning? Because I only heard about it after they already had the list set up. You know what I mean? Anyway, that'll be all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great weekend. Bye.